So hi there, welcome Lynn Serafinn.
Hiya, Tom. How are you?
Great. So thanks for coming on the Moments of Light show
Yeah.
and talking as a show all about people that have had a light bulb moment and
hmm
actually done something about it. And I think
Oh,
you strike me as the sort of person that's had many a light bulb moment. But I'm quite intrigued about this new book of yours, the Seven Graces of Marketing, and how that came about. So,
okay.
what was the spark that caused that to come into
Well,
our lovely world?
there were many little sparks, but then there was probably, one big one that kind of did it. So let me give you a couple of the little sparks and then the big one that really hit me. Um, some of the little sparks were the fact that about 4 years ago or so, I started getting a lot of clients who were in holistic professions or people in creative industries, because that's what I come from, who really hated marketing. So I could see that there was something about marketing that that didn't gel with a certain personality type. So that was kind of like a little spark that was percolating, and I could see that marketing had an edginess to it that they didn't like. And I
Hmm.
realized I started paying attention to things going on in networks, those kind of morning networks where people gave their morning talk, that 60-second pitch, to sell their product. If you've ever gone to those kind of business network
Oh
things,
yes, yeah.
elevator pitches. And I realized that the thing that a lot of them was using is fear. They were using fear to get people to act. And I knew from experience that fear was a great short-term motivator, but not a long-term motivator, and that actually made us ill, made us feel sick over in a long period of time. So I realized that since the people I was dealing with were mainly people who were healers or people who were really about internal growth, that was antithetical to some underlying value system. So the initial idea was realizing that at these meetings, oh my God, everybody's using fear, like they're saying, do you know that mortgage rates are going to go up tomorrow? You better get a new mortgage today, or things like that, things that really make you go, I better act now. Um, and that was the small light bulb moment that made me see there was a need to write something about this and to kind of guide people who, uh, not to these people who had businesses that some of them were going out of business, to guide them along the way. So you were saying, you know what, you're not failures. What you are is you're actually sensing a clash of values. So let's look at how we can create marketing that is in alignment with your value system. So that was the first one, but I'll call that a little spark. It wasn't actually the big thing. The next spark that happened was one day in February 2008, right at the beginning of the so-called recession that people are referring it to as lovingly. My TV blew up. It went poof. It just blew up.
Was it in the
Didn't
middle?
explode.
Was it in the middle of an advert?
No, I turned it on, and I had gotten into a habit of watching TV at night. I had, some years I go for many years without TV, then I come back, no TV, then I come back. Since I lived alone, I had gotten into this habit of watching TV. I go to, I do my work for the day, come back, get a glass of wine, sit down, turn on the TV around 7 o'clock, and that was kind of a ritual. And I was watching really insipid junk because I had just gotten into this habit. And what happened is when I turned it on, it went, it just made this sound, and then I saw this little white squiggle across the screen, and I could hear the voice, but I saw the squiggle, and like an idiot, I stood watching it for about 5 minutes, waiting to see if the squiggle would how it turns into something really insipid
Gotcha.
in daily life. And so take that, bring that in, think of how that applies to marketing. So here's the graces. Here's the graces and sins. So what I'll do is I'll actually start with the right hand. I'll start with the graces and then show you its counterpart in the deadly sins. So the first grace is connection, okay, as opposed to disconnection, obviously. Okay. The second is inspiration versus persuasion, which most marketers are really in-your-face persuasion. The third is invitation, as opposed to invasion. The fourth is directness, as opposed to distraction.
Okay.
Which is a subtle one to get, and a lot of people don't understand how insidious it can be, because it lures us usually with humor, and we think it's okay, but it's actually it's really that those forms of distraction can make people spend and buy things that are not based upon rational judgment and have nothing to do with the product quality. That's why it's a sin. So directness is extremely important. Simplicity, directness, say it like it is. The fifth one is transparency, which is not just about being honest. It's about really having a value base that is shining through. The literal meaning of the word transparency is to shine light through.
Okay.
And so it is about having that value, being visible and shining it through your business and your marketing. The opposite to that is deception, which deception is a pretty big chapter in the book, and there's so many different ways that marketers deceive, and usually it's through the manipulation of language.
Okay.
Like lies that aren't legally lies, but they are lies because of the way the brain is wired. And if you understand, it's kind of like what people talk about with NLP, I guess, but if you understand how the brain processes certain bits of information, especially when you're talking about 30-second adverts or shorter that just are bombarding you, people process information in a different way from what's actually being shown. Like, for instance, I'll give you a simple example of deception. Something says nothing works faster.
Okay.
People process that to mean this is the fastest working, which is not what it means at all. It means that it's either all the same as everything, and that all of them are about the same, or it's about the same as the ones that work the best, or none of them work. It can actually mean none of them work. It can mean that it doesn't work at all. But that's not what the brain hears. And so for the consumer to be educated in this, for the purpose of knowing why they're spending on things, or whether they should, that's really what the book is hopefully empowering the consumer to realize that. And so they can say, wait a minute, stop, marketer, I'm not going to go for this. And from a marketer's perspective, it's also for them to realize what's the impact they're actually having on the consumer. What are the trends that they're setting? What's the impact that has on society, economy, and planet as a result of them using those kinds of manipulations? So it's for both consumer and marketer. Okay, that's 5, transparency versus deception. 6 is abundance, which is a very overused word, versus scarcity. Scarcity marketing is probably the biggest form of marketing out there. I cite many, many different examples. Obsolescence is one of the biggest aspects of scarcity marketing, especially with regards to things like the electronics industry, and computer industry. Oh my God, and it's, I talk about printers, and a great example of obsolescence is printers, how printer breaks. It's easier to go buy a new printer than to get it fixed. You can't get them fixed. The environmental impact this is having is phenomenal. And if you actually do the maths and look